All right, joining us to discuss the Democratic National Convention is Sophie Mokoena. She's SABC News International Editor. Good afternoon, Sophie. So Democrats are upbeat heading into this convention, having woken up to a new poll which places Kamala Harris above Donald Trump nationally and in most key battleground states. Just talk us through the convention and what actually happens there.
Well, quite an important gathering for the Democrats. As you know, that last month we saw the Republicans having a similar gathering where they were able to give us a sense of what the Donald Trump presidency is going to look like if he does win the elections. And we saw the introduction of the running mate, who is now a person who will be the vice president of the United States of America if Donald Trump is able to win elections. And therefore, it also gives an insight in terms of the policy direction of the person who is contesting elections at the presidential level. And now, with the Democrats now having their turn, it will be interesting to see how they are going to communicate not only with the Americans, but with the world in terms of what we can expect if Kamala Harris is elected the president of the United States of America. And fortunately, the Democrats, with those powerful former leaders of the country and being members of the Democrats and also continuing to support the party, it is going to be very, very interesting.
And how important is Joe Biden's address, not only to unite Democrats behind Kamala Harris, but also for his own legacy?
Well, you know that he is one of the most senior politicians in the United States of America, having served in Congress, Senate, and also being a former vice president and now the outgoing president. And therefore, he's got a history, or a rich history, of being in the leadership position as the country evolved in different decades. And therefore, it will be interesting to hear from Biden how is he going to sum up where the United States of America is today. But also quite an important one, because he will take the Americans and the world on a journey in terms of what he has achieved, particularly during his tenure. And quite an important moment, because it is also a farewell speech to the Democrats as the president of the United States of America. And therefore, it is going to be very emotional to members of the Congress, particularly those who believed in him, and some of them perhaps couldn't express themselves publicly, who might not have agreed with the decision for him to pull out. And also, the statement from, or the speech from Jill Biden will be very important in terms of how she is going to characterize the support for Biden and how the family is important in ensuring that whoever ascends to that high office in the land get that kind of a support from people that you know very well. And therefore, today it's nothing else but a farewell speech of Joe Biden. And today we know that the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, will also be speaking. And I think she's better placed to talk about Joe Biden, because you'd recall that when Obama took office, she was the Secretary of State, and at that time, Joe Biden was the vice president, and I think she is going to capture the mood very well. And you'd recall she lost the election to the person who's now contesting again, that is Donald Trump. And I think her linking what transpired then and what the Democrats must look at or guard against, particularly as you are aware that you again have a female candidate for the Democrats.
Now, Sophie, you touched on the fact that not just Americans will be watching developments at the convention closely, but also the world, just to hear what a Kamala Harris presidency would look like. But beyond that, many would be watching around the globe, particularly in relation to what's happening in the Middle East. Anthony Blinken is in Israel currently. We know that there's renewed talks of a ceasefire. What would a ceasefire under Biden's leadership mean for his own legacy?
It will assist, because then he can say that I was able to negotiate the release of hostages. But secondly, it will assist because now Kamala Harris can focus on the real issues, the national issues, not have a problem of dealing with the global issues. As we pointed out earlier on, there are people who are expected to protest outside that convention, people who are supporting Palestine, and therefore you will remove this weight. But also I think it will be very important because that will be a coup for Biden, and therefore that is why you can see that the Antony Blinken decided to even not attend the Congress, the convention, but rather go on and push for this ceasefire. And of course, later in the week, starting tomorrow, the Obamas will take to the podium. It's going to be very, very interesting when you look at the history of Joe Biden. He supported a transition, a racial transition in that country when the first black president was elected. Now again, he is supporting a transition, if possible, a first female president, and not only female, but someone who associates and characterizes herself as a black American. And therefore, this is quite historic for the Democrats. And finally, we know that on Wednesday, former President Clinton will also take to the podium. On Thursday, finally, Kamala Harris with the acceptance speech will be very interesting.
Sophie, as always, thank you very much for your reportage. That's Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor there, just summing up what we're expecting at the Democratic Convention taking place in the next 4 days.